Off we go. I am a sicko. It's 7 o'clock on a Friday. It's January 9th. And to think that a year ago, we were full-fledged, full-throttle postseason coverage, to actually feel like it's night and day, meaning from a head coaching perspective, like on the coverage front, knowing that the Ravens now have 10 candidates, some of which are reportedly interviewing with the Ravens and some of which have already conducted their interviews, or the Ravens have conducted their interviews with several candidates. It's wild to think that this pales in comparison. Like postseason seems like it's just kind of casual compared to a head coaching search. And that's what happens for the first time in multiple decades, almost multiple decades, that the Ravens obviously are in the market for a new head coach. And we've got multiple developments as a result to discuss tonight. The episode itself is brought to you by my friends at Preston Automotive Group and ZipRecruiter. More on them in just a bit. And I'd like to single out one of our viewers tonight. Partry Boys is tuning in from Okinawa, Japan. So Partry, appreciate you. Party. We're going to talk about T. Martin in just a bit. But from a Cleveland perspective, I wanted to bring in friend of the show, Mary Kay Cabot, who's kind enough. I mean, it's not postseason. They're looking for their own head coach, obviously, in Cleveland, but it's a Friday at 7 o'clock. And in a pinch, she was kind enough to agree to this for 10 to 15 minutes of Kevin Stefanski coverage, because that is the 10th candidate that we learned about rather quietly, too. The Ravens kept this rather quiet. They have already conducted an interview with him. He was let go by Cleveland after 6 seasons earlier this week, and obviously the Ravens know him well, having faced him twice a year over that time span. So looking forward to bringing in Mary Kay right now. Happy Friday to you. Appreciate you for coming back on the show, Mary Kay. Happy New Year.
Oh, Happy New Year to you. And yeah, we are busy, aren't we all now?
No kidding. Sarah, my co-host on The Vault, where we've had you on in the past, took a pre-scheduled vacation on the day after the Steelers loss. And the plan was, okay, you know what? If they win, she'll just take off the travel days and then work remotely from this island she's on Tuesday through Thursday. If they lose, she'll take off the whole week. Well, of course, they lose, and we don't learn of the Harbaugh dismissal until Tuesday. So somehow she's exercised a generational amount of restraint to actually enjoy her vacation, and it's been crazy as a result. So we'll have her back on Monday, but I'm glad you're here because you're entrenched in the Cleveland head coach search, which I know that's not exactly uncommon over the years since you've been covering that team. But I got to wonder, this was relatively quiet, don't you think, leading up to, at least from a public standpoint, this interview that took place today?
Yes, I didn't hear anything about it until I saw the Ravens tweet it out. So no, I did not know that was happening. And it's kind of funny, actually. I wrote a story with the headline, trading places ? Because the Browns would really like to interview John Harbaugh. And wouldn't that be something if these two guys actually did trade places? So kind of intriguing, kind of, ironic a little bit here. But there is a world in which next year those guys could be on the opposite sideline.
So we'll get to that in just a bit. I'm really interested in your analysis of Kevin, because obviously this season in particular was a media shitstorm in terms of the quarterback frenzy and everything that unfolded with the way they handled their draft process. But what I have up on the screen is his resume, and Bill Barnwell put this together. He was 45-56 with 2 playoff appearances and 1 playoff win. And the other 11 Browns coaches, a bunch of which you've covered, were a combined 101 and 234, 1 playoff appearance, 0 playoff wins. The record being sub 500 and just 2 playoff appearances. I don't know if that tells the full story of just how much, and I'm air quoting this, success he had at the helm in Cleveland. Would you agree?
Well, I think the key thing to note about Kevin Stefanski throughout all of this is that he really never had an opportunity to work with a quarterback of his choosing or his liking over an extended period of time. Now, he did inherit Baker Mayfield, and Baker Mayfield was a good quarterback, and they went to the playoffs in their first year together. But then things kind of went south after that. And of course, we all know how that unraveled, and they ended up trading for Deshaun Watson and trading away Baker Mayfield, and Deshaun didn't work out. So basically the point here is that Kevin Stefanski really hasn't had a stable and sound quarterback situation the whole time that he was in Cleveland. It was just never like that for him. So I think he's a really good coach that had a really bad quarterback situation here. And I think that is why teams are interviewing this two-time NFL Coach of the Year and why he's one of the hottest candidates on the market right now.
What would you say from a development standpoint are some of his best attributes with the quarterback position?
I think he can do an amazing job with all different kinds of quarterbacks, and he had 13 of them. That 13 different starters he had 13 different starters in his 6 years here, but just over the last 3 years, he used 13 quarterbacks to get through those three seasons. Now, some of those were overlaps, and some of those were the same guy, 1 year after another. But it took 13 quarterbacks to get to the finish line over the last 3 years. So that just tells you something right there. I mean, for the most part, John Harbaugh had Joe Flacco and Lamar Jackson, right? I mean, Kevin Stefanski, 13 different starters in 6 years. Wrap your brain around that.
Yeah.
So he can develop all different kinds of quarterbacks. He's open to all different kinds of systems. He's had many different influences throughout his career. So many different kinds of offenses that he's worked with and worked under guys that have run the number system and the West Coast and all different kinds of things. But I think he's open to all different kinds of suggestions just in terms of, how to develop a quarterback or what kind of system you would want to run. And he's turned over play calling in each of his previous 2 years. So I think that he would be more than open to having someone else call the plays again. But I think he can handle Lamar or any kind of a quarterback.
That's actually the perfect segue because that's where I was going next because he did end up delegating to Tommy Rees this year, right?
Yes, he turned play calling over to Tommy Rees because I think he felt that the football team needed his guidance more so as a CEO coach, overseeing the whole operation when things were going south. And I think he just kind of wanted to put his attention on the whole football team and let Tommy handled the play calling aspect of it. And of course, they wanted to see too, I think, what Tommy could do in the play calling realm. He's known as an offensive savant and a genius. And I think they hoped that maybe he might be able to do some things with those rookie quarterbacks since he had been in the college ranks not too far before that. He turned it over to Tommy, and it's just hard. It's hard to win with rookie quarterbacks. They had all kinds of rookies all over the offense. They had all kinds of injuries on the offensive line. Kevin Stefanski's value and worth as a coach can really not be measured by that Cleveland Browns offense this year.
One of those 13 quarterbacks over that time span that you mentioned was obviously Joe Flacco in the 2023 season when the year was seemingly going nowhere. Deshaun goes down. Joe is brought in and leads them to the postseason. What do you remember about that leadership at that point, and obviously what Joe gave them a shot in the arm?
Well, I think that shows you right there what Kevin Stefanski can do when he has a good quarterback to work with and some pieces to work with. And he brought Joe in and got him up to speed very, very quickly to the point where he averaged 323 yards a game in his 5 starts for the Browns and went 4-1 down the stretch and got him into the playoffs. So I think that says right there a lot about Kevin's ability to get a quarterback ready to play the game of football. And he's done it with a lot of different quarterbacks. And so I just think that he really didn't have much of an opportunity. And whenever he played the Ravens, I mean, it's tough to go up against the Ravens when you don't have a quarterback that can match Lamar Jackson's talent level. Now, there was that 1 year where Deshaun Watson came in, into that football game, and he was injured, but he came out in the second half and just seized the moment and won that game in Baltimore. And, I think that also says something for what it's like to oppose the Ravens when you have a good quarterback that can go up against that defense and oppose Lamar Jackson. So he just didn't have those things most of the time. His record against the Ravens was 4-8. But I just don't think that's representative of what he can do.
You know, it's funny. I was just going to bring up, and I was doing a Google search while you were talking about that to get that number. So thank you for bringing it up. 4-8 against the Ravens. But I think there's a lot of people within the fan base that would acknowledge in Baltimore that Cleveland plays them tough throughout the Lamar era. Now, obviously, the Ravens had their number this year, but you and I are both old enough to remember how the game that Jameis Winston started ended last year. And there's something about the Cleveland Browns, led by, of course, Jim Schwartz, who's had that defense humming over the last couple of years. Maybe that's the reason why he's garnering some attention around the league, including Cleveland. I think so. Cleveland's looked at Tommy and Jim, right? Just in terms of like initial head coaching type of interviewing processes.
Yeah, they got the first two interviews, and those were, of course, in person because they're the in-house candidates. Now, these other interviews right now, if you're with the team, you have to do those virtually if you're employed right now by an NFL team. So they did two more today with Adden Dirty, the Seahawks defensive coordinator, and with Dan Pitcher, the Bengals offensive coordinator. But yes, Jim and Tommy Reese are both on the radar, both had their interviews already, and we'll have to see where that's all going to go.
Yeah, both organizations casting a pretty significantly wide net right now. I mean, I don't know if you can see the screen right now, but there's 10 total candidates between reported interview requests that have been made and actual interviews that have been conducted, with Kevin being the latest as of earlier this afternoon. Can you talk about Jim Schwartz a little bit? I mean, it's a Baltimore native. I know Mel Kiper's been singing his praises. There's plenty of Baltimore ties there to go around. First time, obviously, as a head coach in Detroit, did not work out in his favor. But my gosh, has he been impressive for Cleveland on the defensive side of the ball the last few years?
Well, he really has. And I'm actually quite surprised that I don't think he's gotten any other interviews for head coaching jobs as of yet, or requests as of yet. And I'm a little bit surprised about that. He's presiding over one of the best, most dominant defenses in the NFL. And of course, he had been a head coach before with the Detroit Lions from 2009, as you know, to 2013, went 29-51. So he did not have a very good record there. But sometimes in the second go round for a head coach, you've learned so much. It's in your rear view mirror, and you've changed, you've grown since then. And I think he would make a really, really good head coach. Now, he may end up being the Cleveland Browns head coach. But if he's not, I think that, I do think that other teams should be giving him a look.
Mary Kay, do you have anything more to add that we alluded? I'll let you get out of here in a couple minutes here. I know you probably want to get your weekend started, but as it relates to the John Harbaugh pursuit that I know you have a piece out on, what can you tell us in terms of Cleveland's visions there? Because obviously he's down in South Florida right now. He's bringing his daughter back to law school at USF, and I'm sure just trying to decompress. Then everywhere else around the NFL in terms of that has vacancies are scrambling seemingly to at least get in touch with his representation because he's available now.
Right. I do think the Browns like him a lot. I know they have interest in him. I think that they will try to interview him, and he's going to start his interview slate next week. I think they'll try to make sure that they are on that schedule of his. And I think they really like him. I think Jimmy Haslam has always long admired him. And that probably dates all the way back to Jimmy being a minority owner with the Steelers before he purchased the Cleveland Browns. So I think he's long from afar really admired the job that John Harbaugh has done. And I think he's going to do what he can to make him want to come here. Now, I'm not saying that he's their first choice or anything like that, but I mean, they'll try to sell themselves to John Harbaugh, I'm sure, if he sits in front of them. So we'll see how that goes. Now, sometimes if a coach knows he wants another job, then you don't end up interviewing him. If things behind the scenes get far down the road with another team, we keep hearing that the Giants are going to heavily pursue him. If something like that happens, then maybe you ultimately don't end up interviewing him. But right now, he's definitely on the Cleveland Browns radar. They're doing their due diligence. I know they would like to interview him, and I think that he would be interested in this job. You guys have all heard the stories about how he grew up a Browns fan. His mother went to Cleveland's Shaw High. He grew up a Browns and Guardians. Back then it was the Indians fan. And he, he has a lot of roots here in Cleveland. He's got a lot of ties here. They're Ohio people through and through. And I think there's something to be said for all of that.
And there's something to be said for this photoshopped image that everybody's looking at and freaking out about, because John Harbaugh in Cleveland Browns merch just does not look right. But you never know. Like you said, it could be a flip-flop for the ages, as you mentioned at the beginning of this segment. I'll get you out of here on this, Mary Kay. What do you think Kevin's fit would be in Baltimore, given the personnel, given his skill set, given how tight end centric they are, and given Lamar Jackson's development, and knowing that he has to still be taken to the top of the mountain where he's tried to go here the last 8 years, and for a multitude of reasons, they just haven't been able to get it done this month of the year?
Well, I think that as long as he's paired with uh, a really amazing offensive coordinator that is really well versed in a dual threat quarterback, a running quarterback like Lamar, although it's not that he necessarily would need to have that, but I think it would be helpful. I think it would be helpful to have just that, that support in being able to make sure that you are bringing out the best in Lamar Jackson. So, that would be one thing, but just in terms of being that CEO coach to oversee the whole process, and to keep the trains, running on time, and to stay level head through all the madness and the insanity of a NFL season. He can do all of that very, very well.
Mary Kay Cabot is your X handle. It's also your full name. And you can be found at cleveland.com. All your work, anything that you'd like to tease as your head coach process is underway and people might want to keep up with the John Harbaugh happenings?
No, just it's just coming fast and furious. So if you want to know what's going on with this search, once we get off the phone, I'm going to write another story. But there's just a lot of content there about what's going on. And earlier, as you mentioned, I put up the Trading Places headline about what if those two guys swapped teams, and wouldn't that be ironic? So it's just a lot of stuff that's going up continuously.
My mom called me earlier. It was like 5 o'clock, and I could tell she was in happy hour mode. And I was like, oh, right. It's Friday. Yeah. Maybe next month we can actually enjoy a Friday, Mary Kay. Good luck with everything. And thanks for carving out some time for us tonight.
Oh, sure. You take care.
All right. Mary Kay Cabot from cleveland.com. Appreciate her willingness to chat on a Friday night. And again, if you're just tuning in, the 10th candidate in Baltimore, I swear, Canva, what I use from a graphic standpoint, it's going to blow up. There's not enough room for 10 candidates, but somehow I found a way, and it's Kevin Stefanski, who was let go and dismissed by the Cleveland Browns on Black Monday earlier this week. He spent the last 6 seasons as the head coach in Cleveland. He was 4-8 in his head-to-head matchups with John Harbaugh and the Ravens, and now Stefanski and Harbaugh, two of the most coveted assets that are out there in terms of this year's candidacy, and they're getting looked at by basically every single vacancy around the league right now. The rest of those 10, Cliff Kingsbury, Robert Saleh, Brian Flores, Matt Nagy, Davis Webb, Vance Joseph, Anthony Weaver, Joe Brady, and Klint Kubiak. Several of those have conducted officially their interviews, whether it be in person or virtually, with the Ravens organization, and now we wait and see. Jimmy Smith talked about the future and his vision for where the Ravens hope to go moving forward. I'll have that in just a bit. Adam Schefter talked about the aforementioned Jim Schwartz. Cooper Kupp talked about Klint Kubiak, being that he's worked under him this year as the Seahawks offensive coordinator. And I'll just put a whole bow on what's been an absurd week across the board. And I appreciate you guys for being with me on this Friday evening after 7 o'clock. Dinero Tranquillo says, in Bishotti, I trust. And that's really what it comes down to, right? Steve created his net worth, his wealth, his living, his livelihood within the hiring, staffing, recruiting agency and that world. And so now I think there is a level of trust that should be entrusted in Steve and Eric and Sashi and Ozzie and the rest of the team that are tasked with casting a wide net, just as they did 3 years ago when they settled. I keep using that word. It was not a settle. They hit a home run on Todd Monkin, but it was a wide net. 14 different candidates, 21 interviews 3 years ago when they moved on from Greg Roman at the offensive coordinator position. Joe Jenkins writes, good evening, Trosseteers, Voltrons, and the Orioles and Ravens. Joe, good evening to you. Appreciate you for being here. He also writes, Harbs is every team's first choice. Miss you, coach. Yeah, I think so. He's the belle of the ball. The eye in the sky. Everything that you'd possibly want. Unless, of course, you're Baltimore, knowing that a change was needed. Thanks to ZipRecruiter for the continued support of our program this January as this head coach search and the carousel rolls on. If you're hiring for your company, it's a busy time of year. We've all got 2026 goals. And if you're in hiring, that means finding the right people to accomplish them. Steve Bisciotti's certainly looking to accomplish exactly that. You also have new hiring challenges that come along with 2026, like filling specialized roles, John Harbaugh's successor, or identifying qualified candidates from a huge pool of applicants. Lucky for you, there's a place that you can go to help you conquer these challenges and achieve your hiring goals, and that is ZipRecruiter. You can try it for free by visiting what you see on the screen right now via our screen share tool, ziprecruiter.com/audio. Toggle through a bunch of their tabs, job seekers, allowing you to search jobs freely, salaries, job seeker reviews. You can download the app to learn more. If you're a small or medium business owner, maybe this is the tab for you. Enterprise business owners, take a look. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And you can see for yourself by visiting ziprecruiter.com/audio. Again, that's ziprecruiter.com/audio. It's the smartest way to hire. They've been working with us all month as a busy January 2026 continues. Wolf says Davis Webb and Vance Joseph are linked. It's interesting that both got interviewed. Makes me think that Bisciotti sees value in the offensive coordinator being a quarterback's coach. You know, Wolf, I think the timing of that, to be quite honest with you, is more about the playoff picture and knowing that Denver has a first-round bye, so they're kind of off. Not off, but like this is the time to take that chance. Whereas I think that you won't hear anything related to Jesse Minter, for example, who's preparing for this weekend until next week. That's my guess. Could be wrong. Davis is 30, newly minted. Still has a long way to go in terms of his development. My gosh, is he on the fast track, though, under Sean Payton there in Denver, working really well with Bo Nix. But being that they're the number 1 seed, I think it has more to do with that timing and knowing that you got to strike when you can, given that first-round bye that the Broncos are enjoying right now before they begin their playoff run. Guys, thanks for being with me tonight. Over 1,100 concurrents and counting on what's been just an absurd week. Let's be honest. This has been an absurd week. And I owe a number of you in the waiting room after last night's happenings your chance to come back on the show. I know, Russell. I know. Chomping at the bit. Maddie, Jewel. Just because you guys were on last night when I got that text from Todd, maybe you didn't catch it on the vault this afternoon, but he will join us on Monday. He interviews for the Cleveland Browns gig tomorrow morning, and he needed time to prepare, which is why he couldn't come on yesterday. And I was just trying to give him space, to be quite honest with you, knowing that it's been a tumultuous week. He seemed in great spirits. I spoke with him on the phone last night for over 20 minutes, and he wished the Ravens well, much like he did in his interview, which went north of 40 minutes with Ryan. It was great to catch up with him. I think the world of him, and I think the Ravens will miss him. And they're going to have to be very, very mindful of who they select to be their next offensive coordinator, meaning who they select at the head coach position, because obviously then he'll get his chance to put his program and his play callers together. So anyway, Sarah will be welcomed back accordingly. We'll have former Ravens offensive coordinator Todd Monkin on the program coming up on Monday afternoon. With that, let's go to the guest lines. I haven't even opened up a poll yet, so if you could give me some information, maybe some advice in the live chat in terms of what you think the poll should be about tonight. Got to be honest with you. Going live for like 5-6 hours a day, the amount of prep that's required, something that goes below the wayside is like the 5 minutes that it takes for me to wrap my head around what I should create a poll around. Like there's just some things that fall through the cracks. And tonight, unfortunately, it happened to be that. Sorry. Help me out. Russell, you're up first. Maddie, Julian in the on deck circle. It's great to see you, brother. Happy New Year to you.
Happy New Year to you, sir. Thank you. You have given the best coverage. You are on point. You have killed yourself this week. And I can't, even to the point of the bad Chinese food. Brother, thank you. You are holding down the fort. Sarah, I think you should give her the day off Monday just to torture her.
Can you imagine? Can we just quickly acknowledge the restraint that she had to tap into this week, knowing that not only is this part of her passion project, she doesn't need to do this. Obviously, this starts and ends, I think, with her passion and her fandom, and the fact that she and I have not talked since the dismissal. Like,
wow,
nothing. Now she's taken to Twitter with her thoughts the day of, and she's retweeted, reposted some things. But I'm stunned that she showed that level of restraint. I salute her. I have no idea how she's doing it.
I don't either. Hey, I'm going to just pick one topic because there's a gazillion we could go with. I'm finding it interesting that the older candidates are not being discussed. The spags, people in their late 50s, 60s. Is it me, or does it seem like they are looking for the younger, 30s, 40s coach?
Well, it does feel like that there's an emphasis on, first of all, a blend on both sides of the ball, as you see on the screen right now.
Sure.
Right. It's pretty balanced in terms of the offensive versus defensive minded candidates that they've either spoken to or tapping into for future interviews within the next week or so. But, it was 18 years ago that John was brought in, and he's 63 right now. So you can do the math there. I do think that it would serve them well if they go the younger route. That's not only the sexy thing to do in today's NFL, but there's a lot of proven men on both sides of the ball, expertise-wise, that have had a lot of success. McVay's obviously the golden boy.
Yep.
Mike McDonald's become that guy within the last couple of years, obviously. I wouldn't be surprised. It sure seems like Kellen Moore found something in Tyler Shuck, their rookie down the stretch for them in New Orleans. Look for him to be that guy. He's only 37, 38 years old. It's crazy that the oldest guy in the playoff field this year, I think on the NFC side of things, is LaFleur, and he's like 45.
Yeah. Amazing.
So while I don't think they should look, I've been on record for saying time and time again this week that I'm very interested in a guy like Robert Saleh, especially knowing that there's a relationship with Mike McDaniel. Like that to me is intriguing.
Yeah.
And he would be referred to as a retread. And I talked to Kevin Sheehan about this from the DC side of things, just knowing that he had some perspective on Cliff. And we talked about that yesterday. I don't know why there's a negative connotation with retreads. Like, granted, everybody that you see up on the screen that does have previous head coaching experience, sure, there's a reason why they're coordinators now. It didn't work out for them the first time through. But it doesn't mean that given the setup and the organizational structure and what they'd be walking into in Baltimore, yes, there are several voids that need to be filled between now and September. Doesn't mean that it wouldn't go really well the second time through. So I do like I like the idea of going young, though. What say you?
I think you're right. I think it's the way to go. One oddball thing I'll throw out there: would they go after Mike McDonald and give up draft picks? I'll leave that, and I'm going to leave it there because I could keep going down this road. But these are the fun things that come up during these times.
All right, brother. Appreciate you, guys.
Appreciate you.
Drop a
Happy
bomb and then you leave. Is that what you do? Is that what you do, Russell? Thanks for the call, man. Appreciate
Thank you, brother.
Thanks for all the support. Absolutely. You too. They missed the boat on Mike. I'm not criticizing the organization. You just can't. I'm sorry. Like, you guys can scream from the rooftops, call me all kinds of names, you name it. They're not moving on from their head coach after an AFC Championship appearance. No matter how frustrating, no matter how ridiculous that loss was fundamentally, it's just not happening. And unless you came up with a framework plan to say, hey, John, who's the most competitive. The Harbaugh family is not only football royalty, but just a stupid level of inner competition and spirit and fight that you really think he would have been okay with like Steve coming to him and saying, hey, listen, we're going to give you this amount of time and then it's Mike's operation. That cool with you? just wouldn't, like, that never would have worked. And you think Eric DeCosta is willing to give up firsts or valuable, coveted draft assets to go get Mike McDonald? I think not. And the waiting room appears to agree with me. Speaking of the waiting room, I knew I had at least one fellow sicko in the content world. I knew it. He may not think so, but I'm calling him it anyway. Friend of the program, fellow content creator within this just nutty world that we've been living for. What day is it? Samuel Njoku drops by. What's up, brother?
What's going on? Thank you for having me. I am a sicko. I agree with you for sure. You and I both, brother.
I'm telling you, I just had Mary Kay Cabot on, and obviously she's dealing with a similar news cycle in Cleveland. And I told her that my mom called earlier, and it was just an attempt to pry myself away, go down to the park, get Tilly, my dog, some activity and allow her to stretch her legs. She's been looking at me all freaking week being like, can we go out? And sure enough, what drops? But the Stefanski news. Why wouldn't it? Double digits. My mom calls later. She's like, hey, what are you up to? It's happy hour. I'm like, well, I'm running back home right now because it's time to go live. Yet again, I'm glad to have you here tonight. Ravens Talk Pod on X. You can find his work across all platforms. Great to see you. Your thoughts on the last 72 hours?
It's been a whirlwind. I'm still haven't really adjusted to it. I mean, just to let you in on my personal life, I usually don't have a lot of dreams or things of that nature. I go to sleep, I'm out, wake up in the morning. Since the firing, I've had nonstop dreams of new coaches being added. Brian Flores is the new head coach of the Ravens. Stefanski's the new coach of the Ravens. It's all been Ravens in my head. And it's usually not like that, which tells you that it's been all Ravens for the last 72 hours, which is crazy. I'm sure the Ravens front office is feeling something very similar out there at Owings Mills.
No shit. And I'm not going to go in chronological order here in terms of getting into the candidacy and getting your thoughts on, the here and now, which is Kevin Stefanski, who was let go, of course, earlier this week by Cleveland, and he and Harbaugh, I think, appear to be sort of the top two candidates. I think that's sort of a universal thought right now around the league. I actually want to begin with letting you listen, maybe for the first time, to what Jimmy Smith told me earlier this afternoon about somebody that he overlapped with during his time in Baltimore, and that's Jesse Minter. Of course, he's went on to have a tremendous amount of success, stayed within the Harbaugh network, goes to Michigan, wins a national title. And then, of course, when Jim bolts for the NFL, he comes with him along with the rest of Ravens West and everything that's materialized into over the last couple of years. And he served as his defensive play caller the last couple of years. Listen to Jimmy's thoughts, though, having, again, been at the time when Jimmy was still an active player. Jesse was coming up the ranks under John Harbaugh as one of his defensive assistants. And Jimmy and I had a good conversation. Get your reaction on the other side of this.
I mean, Jesse's a great coach. He's just very, let's say, very Michael McDonald-ish in the sense that they both came in assistants, and those are the guys that, before games, you're like, hey, give me a couple extra nuggets, because those guys study the game so well, and they know, and they prepare very well. So I feel like with Jesse, I'm not going to call him Mike McDonald, obviously, but that's kind of the mold I would see him in. Like, he's a defensive-minded guy. He was our DB coach and has respect of the players and communicate with us. When he used to run the meetings, when he used to do his time doing the meetings back then, it was like he did a great job. So it's not a person that's like scared to speak up and all that. So I've been watching his career since he left us and watching him at Vanderbilt, and he's been doing a good job. But that you just never know. Like I said, it's hard to know what the Ravens are, because the like I said, the guy Davis Webb, I'd never thought, who was that? Who was that guy? And then it's like, oh, okay. They obviously, have a different thought process than we do as fans, and they are looking at different stuff. But it seems like by the list that we're going offensive minded. It just feels like that.
All right. So I highly encourage everybody to go check that out earlier today on the vault towards the latter half of, I mean, it's 2+ hours, just absurd amounts of time is being devoted to this. I know you can relate, but Mike McDonald-ish, huh? Everybody kind of, maybe they're on the cardio right now, or maybe they're making dinner, and you kind of like, wait, can we pause that and run that back? Mike who? Mike McDonald-ish was the comparison. And I got to wonder, are you thinking that, this is what I'm thinking, I'm wondering if you agree, Chargers, Patriots, Sunday Night Football. He's entrenched in that game plan, entrenched in everything to try and win a playoff game on Sunday night. I think that interview request comes in next week, and I wouldn't be surprised, depending on the outcome of Sunday night's game, if next week's conversation, because remember, Bisciotti and DaCosta are having their 2:00 presser on Tuesday. I think this is going to be a very urgent process, but not a rushed process that might end up being drawn out. It would not surprise me if a week from now, you and I or anybody's having a conversation within this realm saying, Jesse's the favorite. You watch, like he might vault to the top starting next week. What say you?
I agree. And shout out to Jimmy. I don't know if a lot of people know this. Jimmy Smith is very heavily involved with the Ravens still. I think every time I go to the Ravens game, he's there. You know, I had a couple of opportunities to be up there in the suite watching games. He's always there. I think I was watching the game with him last year when the Ravens played the Broncos when they blew them out. I saw Jimmy there. So he's always entrenched with the Ravens in some way, shape, or form. So he's very in the know. But yeah, I agree with him completely. He's very much Mike McDonald-ish in his preparation. And I've heard from a lot of players and other people in the know that they're very fond of him. He's getting interviewed for sure. I'd be shocked if Minter isn't interviewed. He seems like a guy that the Ravens would covet. But again, like you mentioned, Webb was a guy nobody knew about. Harbaugh, a guy 18 years ago, nobody knew about. So the Ravens are doing it is a wide net, but it's also a very concerted effort by them. They know who they're targeting. They've talked to people around the league. They've spoken to people throughout the years. It's not very difficult. It's a very close-knit group of people in the National Football League. So it's not like they don't know who Webb is. They've heard about him. They heard good things about him, and that's why they brought him in. And it's going to be very similar with Minter. I think Minter's a guy who Ravens fans should be looking out for as a potential top-tier candidate for the Ravens as the head coach for this football team.
Thoughts on the Stefanski news? That was kind of underreported. Like I had Mary Kay on. She's as plugged in from a Cleveland perspective as anyone. And the first she learned of it, of course, just days removed from him being shown the door, was the Ravens post saying that the interview had already been conducted.
Yeah, I think that people are going to be anti-Stefanski because he spent those years with the Browns, and the Browns didn't win a championship. But Stefanski's a really good head coach, and the Ravens would be foolish not to at least interview him. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a top-tier candidate. I mean, look, you get a limited amount of time to interview and let yourself be known. I'm sure the question will be why didn't it work in Cleveland? Not very hard to see why it didn't work in Cleveland. You need a quarterback in this league to be successful. So he did great with Joe Flacco when he was hot. I mean, I know a lot of Ravens fans want somebody, the hot name that's going to push this team to new bounds, but Stefanski is an option, and don't be surprised if Stefanski is the name you're hearing a lot more of as we get closer to them finalizing who this guy actually is for the Ravens.
Another candidate that had his interview completed, it was conducted earlier today, was Klint Kubiak, who's also in the postseason. He's enjoying the fruits of the number one seed, which of course the Ravens have had a chance to do a couple times throughout the Lamar era. And I think Cooper Kupp's words on his offensive coordinator after year one in Seattle certainly have some weight to them. Here is the former Super Bowl champ.
You want to play for guys like Klint. Humility is one thing I think is one of his special traits. He leans on guys, but obviously he's a very smart ball coach, understands a lot about this game, but his humility to be able to talk to guys and maybe see like, hey, there's something that I'm asking someone to do. Maybe they can't do it for some reason, and maybe there's a better way to do it. And his openness to be able to talk to players and to the coaches that he has around him, and to delegate and be able to grab everyone's best traits and bring them all to the forefront. I think he does a great job of that. So, I think he'll be great. Hopefully he's here, but you want everyone to be able to ascend and go do whatever they want to do. So, but he'll be great wherever he is.
I don't think he's going to be there, Coop. I don't think so. And pretty high praise there from the Super Bowl MVP. So Klint, young guy, 38 years old, needs no introduction with that last name. We both know the kind of success that his father, Gary, had prior to taking the Denver head coaching gig on the lone season that he was in Baltimore in 2014. Really fired on all cylinders. That team didn't get to where it ultimately probably should have went that year. But your thoughts on the candidacy, if you will, that Klint Kubiak comes with, because, sure, if you go look at the last 10 years, the guy really hasn't spent more than a year or two in all of his respective stops. But when you have that kind of last name and you're having that kind of success year in and year out, and a lot of your head coaches, to no fault of your own, are being fired, you're an attractive candidate.
I think that, in my opinion, he's the top 3 candidate for me. And probably from all the candidates, he's number 1 offensive-minded candidate that I'd go with. I think that the main thing that has been a knock on him, the reports about him not commanding a room. Look, Mike Macdonald was the same way. I think a lot of people would say he can't command the room. I'm sure that would be a knock on him. And I'm sure the Ravens will be doing their due diligence with that, because there's a lot of personality in this locker room. Maybe not the case that it was in 2008 when they had Ray Lewis and Nate Reed out there, but got guys like Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers, Roquan Smith, these, high energy guys, Marlon Humphrey, if he's still a Raven after this season. But I would say that he's the guy that the Ravens would do their homework on. They'll probably ask him the tough questions, because moving to head coach is a big deal. But again, they hired a guy who was a secondary coach for a year. No kind of X's and O's in his bloodline as far as what he's able to do on game day, but still was able to get 18 strong years out of him. So Klint Kubiak is a guy I like a lot. Again, an X's and O's guy, humble, something that, the Ravens players probably be easier to get to him and talk to him and maybe have a conversation without getting too hostile. I'm not saying that was the case with John Harbaugh, but I'm just saying he has a personality that invites the type of things that maybe this Ravens team needs right now. I like Klint Kubiak a lot, and I'm sure that the Ravens do too. So we'll see.
I thought Jimmy was really good. You mentioned Marlon Humphrey, and you got me thinking about that part of the interview earlier today. And, man, look, Jimmy's going to be really careful about what he says. He's still got a lot of relationships in that building, as he should be careful. He was pretty quick to point out the obvious about the pass rush or lack thereof, and how the statistics that we know that are out there going viral this week, that Marlon and Nate, in terms of coverage yards, there's no other DB that gave up more than those 2 guys around the entire league. Look, he was critical of them, and I think obviously the staff was of Nate, for example, after the Packers game, probably the worst game of his young career. And Marlon, I thought, struggled in some areas down the stretch, although you're never going to question the guy's resiliency, toughness, playmaking ability when it matters. Just when everybody was ready to fully cook the guy, he comes up with a forced fumble with a broken finger. It's just, you're never going to question that. And all of a sudden, he's the longest tenured Raven on the defensive side of the ball. So, you do wonder what his future is, and perhaps some repositioning, realignment could be in his future. But I did find that interesting to know. And we both know that since Sis, really, since Judon, really, they've really struggled in that department. And it hasn't been for a lack of trying. They've just missed in some cases in free agency. They've gone the Band-Aid route in free agency. They've gone the older veteran route, which, hey, all power to Jadeveon Clowney. KVN certainly resurrected his career over the last several years. But is that really sustainable over the course of time? No. And then to counter that, as we both know, they've also missed in the draft. The jury's still out on Mike. We'll see what happens with the new staff coming in. But I was interested to hear what Jimmy had to say on that front.
Oh, Jimmy's absolutely right. Did these guys forget how to play football? Last year, Nate Wiggins was the top probably rated rookie cornerback in all of the football. So, and Kyle Hamilton had to be brought down. He's blitzing more than ever before. When you blitz somebody, especially a guy in the secondary, you're exposing the back end of your defense, and they're still not able to get consistent pressure with those blitzes. I'm not saying that Marlon Humphrey had a great year. Same thing with Nate Wiggins. All I'm saying is the pass rush has got to improve. It doesn't matter if they're bringing, Mike Ditka over here to run this defense. It doesn't matter. If you don't get somebody out here to rush the passer consistently, Trey Hendrickson's a free agent. Max Crosby has been one of those guys that have been thought of as a trade rumor. They got to hit, and they got to hit now. They can't afford to wait until the draft to get somebody, because, you don't know how it's going to turn out. Again, the jury's still out on Mike Green. Got to get somebody who's going to get in there and be dominant now, because if you don't, it doesn't matter how good these corners are, give a receiver in this league 10 seconds, 5 seconds to get open. More often than not, they're going to do so, and these quarterbacks are going to find you.
Maybe that's what's intriguing, even though this whole retread narrative gets negative connotations within the fan base. Maybe that's what's intriguing about what you're seeing on the screen. And Vance Joseph, who conducted their interview with him and Davis Webb, as we already discussed yesterday. I mean, take a look. There's not many defenses that did and will continue to do, if they have success in the postseason, what they did on the defensive side of the ball this year. I mean, the third scoring defense, just 311 points allowed. And what's so ironic about this graphic, Sam, is that all 5 playing in the postseason. That's for darn sure. So anyway, before we get you out of here, just so that you're kind of on record here. So you're intrigued on the offensive side of the ball. Number 1 candidate would be Klint Kubiak, is what it sounds like.
Yes.
Do you have a number 1 candidate on the opposite side, or where would you be on the defense?
I think that Jesse Minter is probably the hot guy, the guy that I think is most intriguing for the Ravens because of the familiarity. He used to be here, the Harbaugh connection, all of that plays a factor. I really like Brian Flores. I think that he would be perfect for what the Ravens are dealing with now. Now, there's so many question marks surrounding Flores, and I don't think it's getting a lot of attention. The litigation that's still going on with him in the NFL, I think is huge, considering that, the owner's the one that's going to make the call. And of course, all of those 32 owners have met and spoke about Flores, and it hasn't been in a positive light. Also, his tenure in Miami hasn't been all that, impressive. So he'll need to answer for that. But I think if he does get the nod, he'll bring in a certain culture and a defensive presence that will really shapeshift this team. Rob Salah is another guy who I think could be very good. He could pair with Mike McDaniel if Mike McDaniel doesn't get a head coaching opportunity. He's still getting interviews to be a head coach elsewhere because, his offensive mind is just second to none. He has the best offensive mind of the group of people still here. So Brian Flores is probably 1 for me. Salah number 2, pairing him up with Mike McDaniel. I think the dark horse is Klint Kubiak. Could get the nod if everything goes well with this interview.
I think we're kind of lockstep. If we're differentiating between both sides of the ball, I'd give Kubiak the lead on the offensive side, and I'd probably go Minter Salah on the defensive side right now if we're breaking up like that. And then in terms of overall, I got to still think about that and dive into it. But appreciate you for doing this in a pinch, my man. It's been a heck of a week. I've got your X account up on the screen at Ravens Talk Pod. Going to go ahead and throw that link into the live chat right now for those that aren't familiar with your work. What do you got coming up this weekend into next week, coverage-wise?
Well, not much coverage-wise unless there's some crazy breaking news, but obviously there will be. Somebody's going to get an interview after the wild card weekend, so I'm sure we'll be talking about that. I'm also working with, Kadri Ismail and Kevin Ostreicher, the Locked On Ravens Squad show. We meet twice a week on Mondays and Wednesdays, so stay tuned for that. We'll be live talking Ravens football. I'm sure there'll be more news to talk about with that. And then my show once a week, we'll talk about, of course, the fallout of the John Harbaugh firing, because it has certainly had ripple effects across the National Football League, but also within that facility. So stay tuned for that.
I was going to say the weekend. We don't know what the weekend will consist of, but I'm not making any plans. I know that. Yeah. I know you got a family and whatnot, so you probably just.
I probably should, but I've got to be prepared.
You got to take it hour by hour. I'm just going into it being like, listen, these plans, this date, that app. No, all this is off the table. Nothing's about as enticing anyway.
Exactly.
We just know, like, Nagy's being spoken to on Sunday, I'm pretty sure. Mm-hmm. Weaver's Monday. Todd, not that this matters, but who knows what comes of it. Like, Monkin's meeting with Cleveland tomorrow. Like, there's going to be stuff that happens and surfaces this weekend. So it's more of a when, not if. Appreciate you, brother. Look forward to doing it again. And Happy New Year to you and the fam.
Same to you, man. Take it easy. See you soon.
Later. Samuel Njoku, guys. Appreciate him. Go check him out at Ravens Talk Pod. Some great perspective there. And he helped us out a lot on the vault, doing a little bit of fill-in work just a couple months back. So appreciate him. And let's get back to the guest lines. I'm sorry, Maddie. I wasn't sure if Samuel was going to come on or not. And he ended up coming on. So let's get back to the guest lines here in just a second. Maurice and Julian in the on deck circle. And let me get caught up on super chats before we officially open this back up. I believe we left off with Wolf. So Dave says, oh, here we go. Charlie Kirk has said anything racist in months. That's fantastic. David Rice writes, Kubiak is my first pick. The control the clock offense makes it easier on the defense. Now Salah would be my 1A pick for the reason you just said. Cool, David. Joe writes, Bobby, who do you think about we'll get for head coach? I think I was actually just mentioning that a minute ago. Right now, I'd go Kubiak is in the pole position on the offensive side of the ball. I'd go Minter Salah 1-2 on the defensive side of the ball. That's where I'm at right now. But I think Anthony Weaver needs to be a part of this conversation, and it's subject to change, being that he hasn't had his interview yet. That's on Monday. So he's sort of waiting in the wings, and I think there's a tremendous level of respect for him as the CEO guy with the defensive background, player background, coaching background, familiarity. So put a pin on him. Josiah says, it's Kubiak for me. His career has been an improving slope. A young mind as a first-time head coach. He played college ball as a safety and was a team captain. He's got a defensive and offensive mind. I like the way it sounds. Yeah, Klint was a safety at Colorado State from 2005 to 2009. I like the way that you're putting that together, Josiah. His coaching career has been, for the most part, primarily on the offensive side of the ball. But to your point, he's got the defensive mind as a former safety, the ball hawk, the captain that you have to be as the flanking guy, looking at all three levels from the vantage point that safeties have on the football field. So good stuff from you, Josiah. To the guest lines we go. I really need to come up with a poll. I still have not put up a poll. So that's a problem. We got to get to that. There's over 1,600 concurrents and counting on a Friday night. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the college football playoff, which I believe is underway. But I've been so focused on NFL head coach coverage that, quite honestly, I had it on in the background last night and saw the Hail Mary and thought to myself, that could have definitely been called DPI, even though you don't call unwritten rule. You do not call DPI on a Hail Mary. Last night might have been the exception. Sad for Ole Miss. Mario Cristobal is kind of a douchebag, by the way. To the guest lines we go. Just ask SVP about that post-game interview. Maddie, thank you for waiting, brother. Good to see you tonight. What's going on?
Bobby T, how we feeling on a beautiful Friday night?
I'm great. I'd rather have a stogie sitting in a humidor with my entire setup right here. But look, it's beside the point because this week has been literally the most. I'd say it's the busiest of my entire career. Definitely, I don't know if it would compete with the Olympics, but that was pre-independent career media-wise. So I think since I started this, far and away, busier than the AFC Championship week, busier than Lamar's extension and contract talk in 2022. Like, this is just absurd.
Well,
just absurd.
I can speak for the rest of the chat. We really appreciate the hard work, brother. We need this coverage in the worst. But I just wanted to come on here and speak about I have a statement and a question.
Okay.
First, about Brian Flores, right? I understand why people like him a lot. And I personally, as a coach, I do like him. But I have two questions. Obviously, we've been talking about the lawsuit and all that. But my question is, who would he bring in for offensive coordinator? That's what worries me. A Josh McCown? I'm good on that. Honestly, I am. I don't think that kid fix the offense and get somebody like a Rashad Bateman going again. But what's your thoughts on that?
I don't know, to be honest with you. I haven't thought about it. Yeah. I've thought about him solely as a head coach. I haven't thought about the potential staff or tree. Obviously, Ryan Fitzpatrick is on record for saying that he doesn't have a ton of relationships from his time in Miami.
Yeah, that was the dictator statement, right?
It was.
Yeah.
But he's a proven winner and was around a lot of winning throughout New England. And I think this is a good chance to bring up Matthew Collar's thoughts from yesterday, which I think are as level-headed, balanced, and fair as you can possibly get when it comes to his candidacy. So listen to this. Maybe this is like overkill. You guys have heard it all a couple times. I think this right here, Matthew, who's a Vikings insider, gives you everything you need to know in terms of what possibly could have changed for him since he had a chance to work under Tomlin and now Kevin O'Connell, two of the best culture guys in the league. And then also why there is a little bit of risk attached as well. Listen to this. You and I will react on the other side.
Sounds good.
Like every can of worms has another little can of worms inside of it with Brian Flores. And this is certainly part of it because Brian Flores took over a team that was tanking. And according to Flores, if you really dive deep into this, he was offered, this is his claim, he was offered extra bonuses for losing football games, which if you've ever met Brian Flores, I cannot imagine how that conversation went. Like asking this guy to lose games to try to get them to the top. And then ironically, they get Tua anyway, but the tank for Tua thing. So that relationship in Miami certainly did not start off on the right foot with Tua because the whole tanking thing was for him. The other part of it, too, is that head coaches want to win football games, which doesn't always connect to playing young quarterbacks and developing young quarterbacks. So there was conflict about when to play Tua, when to keep Ryan Fitzpatrick in. And I think as things started to devolve and get more challenging, from the way that Ryan Fitzpatrick describes it, that's where Brian Flores said, I'm taking the reins of all of this. I'm not going to be a delegator. We're going to do whatever I say. And Fitzpatrick said that you'd be hard pressed to find other coaches on that staff that would back Brian Flores as a head coach again. Now, your point, though, is right, that we are talking about something that happened multiple years ago in his first opportunity as a head coach, going from a linebackers coach to the head of an entire organization that was extremely dysfunctional. So, there's an old Chappelle skit about the real world and how people go crazy. And if people know that, they know what I'm talking about. But it's kind of like you put a guy in a situation that would drive anyone insane, and it doesn't work out maybe perfectly. Even the best franchises, as you've seen, Baltimore has been held up forever as the cream of the crop, and yet still dysfunction is possible inside any NFL building. But he goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers. He works with Mike Tomlin. He comes to the Minnesota Vikings and works with Kevin O'Connell. And I think that if you were ranking all of your culture coaches in the National Football League 1 through 32, 1 and 2 are probably Mike Tomlin and Kevin O'Connell. And I think that Brian Flores has been very reflective about this anytime he's ever been talked about it, because when Tua called him a bad person, first of all, at that press conference where Flores was set to talk about it, his players came to the podium with him before that press conference to back him. So that was something they didn't have to do, but they wanted to make it clear, like, we don't feel the way that Tua is describing. And I have never heard that from his players here. In fact, if you go look at the best players to ever talk about something are guys with nothing to lose. If you go look at Stephon Gilmore or Anthony Barr, the things that they've posted on social media about Flores' candidacy, they are backing him 100%. And those guys are not in the league anymore. They could say whatever they want. And so anything internally, whether it's Josh Metellus or Harrison Smith saying that one of the main reasons he returned was that he loved working with Brian Flores. So people can learn, people can change, especially in the NFL, and understand maybe better how to delegate, how to run an organization. But you can't ignore that stuff happened. And you also can't ignore that he didn't sign an extension with the Vikings, and wonder about what are the internal relationships like with him and the front office and Kevin O'Connell when he decided not to do that. Like, it couldn't have just been money as the cause. So there is, and what makes him such a fascinating character in the NFL in general is there's a lot that we just don't know that has gone on. And there's a lot that we can't project about how he will handle that situation again. All I could tell you is that the players here have backed Brian Flores 100% really from day one and connected with him extremely well. And I also know that regardless of how dysfunctional it was, he had elite defenses in Miami too. And the guy really knows what he's doing on that side of the football.
See what I mean? Like, that to me, and I'm just saying this because that was my interview with him. Like, that to me is the best, most level-headed, most thorough analysis of where things currently stand with Brian as a candidate, knowing that the elephant in the room, the umbrella over all of it, is that this lawsuit is ongoing. The litigation is open. And so if I'm Steve Bisciotti, I have to take a close look at that from a PR perspective, from a distraction perspective, from a future perspective, and ask myself, like, is this worth it? Is this in the best interest of my organization? Because you know what you can check off? You can certainly check off this dude's going to turn around your defense and turn it around quickly, because they got the dogs to do it. Obviously, they got to find some pass rush. They got to develop. They have to draft better. But you have the dog. When you have Kyle Hamilton under center, or excuse me, Lamar's under center. When you got Kyle under contract for the foreseeable future, you got yourself a darn chance. And so that's what I was referring to. And did you have any reaction to that, Maddie?
Yeah, I was actually listening to that, and it really makes me think about how Baltimore is as a franchise. We've only had 3 head coaches. So do you think we are the type of franchise that would take that risk? Because we know how our coaches are. We just had John Harbaugh for 18 years. So
no, I don't think so.
See what I mean? I think he definitely is the most fascinating and just overall most interesting prospect to be our coach. It's like, how would Baltimore take the risk here?
My gut tells me no, but they want to have an initial conversation. And why wouldn't you? He's out of the postseason. Bring him to Baltimore. Bring him in person. Forget virtual. Bring him to your building and get a feel for him. I thought it was great stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing how this materializes, if it does at all. So
Now I just got 2 things real quick, and then I'll get out of here.
And one thing though, because Afia's gonna
no problem. I got you.
Here. Afia is asking what the risk is. Afia, I love you. Are you listening to the conversation? Like, what do you mean? What's the risk? Like, I'm genuinely asking this. I don't mean to single you out. What do you mean? What's the risk? We just talked about it. There is risk. Hold on, Maddie. Crash out.
Go.
Friday night after 8:00. I mean, it's fucking 8:00 for all I know. What's the risk? There's an ongoing litigation. There's a lawsuit that's open. That's the risk.
Yep.
Not, like there's no correlation. We're not calling him guilty.
Yeah.
There's a legal battle that's going on that he's alleging. There's allegations involved. It's a mess.
And not to mention he was labeled a dictator, not to mention.
And that's like a whole nother conversation, right? Like, and to be honest, that's what I really enjoyed Matthew Collar, because those allegations, those labels, those narratives didn't follow him to Minnesota.
Yep.
So let me be clear on that. That's what I liked about Matthew's breakdown. Like, his players are speaking on his behalf as there's fireworks in the distance right now. And now Tilly's freaking out. Why are there fireworks on the 9th of January? It's not New Year's Eve. It's okay, little Till.
Did we not receive a notification about the new head coach yet? I don't know.
Like, what'd you say?
Did we not get a notification about the new head coach? Maybe that's why the fireworks are going off. Or it's a late Harbaugh firing celebration.
Or they hear me yelling and they're trying to make me yell right now. Maybe that's what it is. Okay, little Till. She is freaking out right now. But
God.
She's underneath me, and she usually tries to pull down my whole setup when this happens. But all I'm trying to say, Afia, and those that are asking, what the risk. Anytime, and again, there's no one's insinuating that Brian's in the wrong here. There's just a lawsuit that's involved, and there's serious allegations that are involved, not from a crime perspective, but based on what kind of high-functioning organization are you going to be able to run with limited distraction, limited potential, that comes from it when this is ultimately settled. And so you would be taking a calculated risk, knowing that is involved. And so, sure, every candidate comes with a risk, particularly given one that doesn't have any head coach experience previously, which is not Brian. Right? That's not Brian. He does have previous head coach experience. And those Dolphins defense, go ask the Ravens how they felt in 2021. Right?
Oh, yeah. They were just running man coverage and sat in the house.
He sure had it. Correct. He sure had an answer for Lamar Jackson in 2021. And that set up a nice blueprint for how you beat Lamar back then. Now, obviously, they had a plan moving forward, and that's why they ultimately got rid of Greg the following season. But the bottom line is, this is how Steve Bisciotti has made himself into the successful billionaire that he is. And he's going to make a decision with the organization's best interests in mind. And I think everybody, from a fan perspective, should trust him to do that.
Absolutely. And I'm going to leave you on this. Please, Bobby, start pushing the narrative. Why is nobody talking about Mike LaFleur right now? Please.
Mike in LA?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, because you don't want to know why I balked at that for a second, because there's some serious, I don't know about serious, but there's like rumors going around that McDermott and LaFleur in Green Bay could be on the potential chopping block if they lose this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, look, I'm all about Mike. Anybody that's in McVay tree, I mean, come on. Like, we're all, everybody's got their tongue out like a dog, as you should with that tree, given the track record. But I happen to think a lot of Matt too, and I'm going to be very interested to see what happens this weekend. So I like where your thought is, for sure.
Absolutely. 13 personnel. I love it.
Thanks, Matty. Appreciate the call. Great stuff, man. The Brian Flores conversation's one that goes in so many different directions, right? It's a hot button item. I get it. It's complicated, and he's a hell of a candidate. And I look forward to seeing or hearing from Bisciotti on Tuesday when he's inevitably asked about every single one of these candidates. It'll be the first time that he addresses reporters in a local setting in Owings Mills since 2018. That's pretty freaking significant. Joe Jenkins says, sorry, Bobby, my last text was a drunk text. I haven't gotten a drunk text in a long time, Joe. Thank you for that. He also says a second time. Sorry, Bobby, my last text was a drunk text. Joe, thank you for the second drunk text. More than I've had in a long time. Joe also writes, I sent it twice. You know now I'm not lying. I sure do. KP writes, we aren't a quarterback away from being a competent team. Therefore, this isn't the time or place to hire someone without head coach experience. You could see the rationale behind that. Bring me Robert Saleh and Mike McDaniel then, KP. Run it up. I've been on for over 60 plus minutes, and I've yet to mention the other piece of news before I get back to the guest lines. Because it's not just Kevin Stefanski that's garnering some attention here from around the league. T. Martin, add him into the news as well. The Ravens quarterbacks coach since 2023. Prior to that, he was the wide receivers coach in 21 and 22. After that, he was at his alma mater, Tennessee, where he won a BCS national championship as the quarterback, I might add. In 1998, he was a fifth-round pick back in 2000 by the Pittsburgh Steelers, hung around the NFL for a few years, and then got into coaching in 2006 as the passing game coordinator at Morehouse. T and Lamar have a strong rapport, and as Jordan Schultz noted here, he's getting some interest as a play caller. The Lions and the Commanders are taking a look at him. Again, he's been working with Lamar the last several seasons. That 2023 NFL MVP certainly helps his resume as well. Anybody have thoughts on T. Martin? I know we've gotten some super chats in the last couple of days in terms of his candidacy as an offensive play caller. He does not have any NFL experience as an offensive coordinator, but he was the OC at USC, and he's had a ton of experience as an assistant at both levels. Jewel, you've been waiting for a while. Maurice, you're on deck. Good to be with you tonight, brother. What's going on?
Hey, what's going on, Bobby? I was going to talk about candidacies. We had a lot of interviews so far, and it's almost like every hour there's one's popping up after another. But I would believe that if the Ravens do a second interview with a guy that they like, more than likely that guy's going to get hired. Because usually the Ravens like to do they'll do a second interview with the probably the same guy or one of their top favorites that they like, and they 9 times out of 10 that guy gets hired, either as coordinator or whatever the case may be. And in this case, it's a head coach. So, but like you said, as far as the Green Bay situation, if Green Bay loses this week, yeah, they're definitely Matt LaFleur or Mike.
Yeah, Matt. Mike's under McVay.
Okay, Matt. So he's definitely going to get a look at. I would say for offensive coordinator, I've been thinking about this. What about that guy from Denver that they looked at? What's his name? Davis Webb?
Yeah, I think Davis.
You think they'll take a look at him?
Unless the Ravens decide on Vance Joseph to be the guy, I would think that Davis is sort of one of those. I mean, he's 30. He turns 31 later this month. I think it's more like, hey, this guy's rising the ranks quickly. Let's get some familiarity with him. Let's get him in our building. I don't know if that was an in-person. I think it was virtual.
Right.
Don't quote me on that, but yeah, I think that was more of like, hey, wow, this dude's future is extremely bright. He's worked really well with Bo Nix over the years. And oh, by the way, like we're interested in Vance as well. Like we might as well get these guys on and they go up against one another in practice, training camp, all that, and see what they're all about under Sean Payton, who obviously is a Super Bowl champion. So yeah, I think, wow, you talk about youth. I mean, come on, man. That's
going at it.
Like, good for him, man. Like he was sort of a backup in the league. I don't think he started. I think he may have started like one game maybe throughout. He was a Giants draft pick. I don't think he was a day 2 pick.
Yeah,
third round maybe.
Yeah, I remember that.
And he played college football. He was part of the air raid under Kingsbury at Texas Tech. So he's intriguing. It would not surprise me if he's one of those dudes that in the next like handful of years ends up getting that opportunity. So
I think he's an interesting offensive coordinator candidate if they want to go that route. But if I had to put my top guys on both sides of the ball, offensive and defensive head coach, I would say for offense is obviously Klint Kubiak. He's at the top of the list. As far as coordinator, I would take a look at Kevin Stefanski. I wouldn't back off of that. Even though people are saying no, don't do that. I mean, I get it. I mean, it's he was in Cleveland, but doesn't take away from the fact that he's a good play caller. He's his offense is technically are good. When he has the right pieces in place. And Joe Brady. I think Joe Brady's another guy that people need to definitely take a look at as well. Even though some people say, "Well, he's a check down merchant," you don't want that guy with I mean, I don't know.
They haven't had much of a vertical downfield passing attack in Buffalo. That might be due to personnel, to be honest. Joe obviously was a part of that LSU super team with Burrow and JJ and Chase. Just a ridiculous amount of talent there. And then he's been in Buffalo the last several years. I mean, they're gonna take a look at him, and as are a lot of teams. Yeah. And to kind of summarize this, I'm kind of with Njoku from a few minutes ago. I think right now, Kubiak on the offensive side of the ball to me is most intriguing. Yeah. And then if it's defense, I think I'd probably give, and I do think this is going to start to take shape next week, knowing that they're playing Sunday night, Chargers. I think Jesse Minter. Oh yeah. And for me, I like Salah a lot. Obviously, I haven't shied away from that at all this week.
I agree.
But I think Minter and Salah, as a 1-2 combo in terms of how things are playing out. We'll wait and see who gets second interviews. We'll wait and see who gets invited onto campus, into the building. But right now, that's kind of intriguing to me. Those three names very early on in this process. It's 72 hours in. They've already conducted 4. Vance Joseph, Davis Webb, Kubiak, and Stefanski. So they've conducted 4, requested 6, and a lot of those requests are guys that are in the postseason, and that you have to respect, obviously, with what they're preparing for this weekend. So
exactly.
So yeah, thanks, Jewel.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, brother.
All right, no problem, Bobby.
Later, man. Again, if you're just tuning in, Team Martin is being looked at as a potential play calling candidate in Detroit and in Washington. He's been the quarterback's coach and developed a close relationship with Lamar over the last couple of years, has play calling experience at the collegiate level, not at the NFL level to date. Maurice, then Evan, appreciate you guys for being with me tonight. Over 1,700 concurrents and counting on a Friday evening as we approach yet again 90 minutes of content on what's been a barn burner week. What's up, Maurice? Good to see you, brother.
Hey, Bobby, how you doing? Thanks for having me. We're already
cut sleeves, he says.
So we're already 72 hours in.
Let's see those traps, baby. Come on now.
It's actually humid as hell in this room. So it's a very rare occasion for me to wear shirts like these. But yeah, we're gonna get straight down to business. But we're already 72 hours in, and it's like things is already getting a little active for the Ravens, and the offseason haven't even started yet. But for me, ideally, it's like my top two candidates in my book for the head coaching position would be Brian Flores and Klint Kubiak. And also, when you look at our past three head coaches throughout Ravens history, it's like we've never hired a head coach under 45. Like when we hired Ted Marchibroda in 96, he was the oldest of the bunch. He was 65 when we hired him.
Was that what he was?
Yeah, he was 65 in the year 96. So it's his best years as a coach was far behind him. But with Ted Marchibroda, he's had a lot of familiarity. Coach for Baltimore, even before they became the Ravens, it's like he was a coach for Johnny U with the Colts. But I know that's not the main topic of the day. But the point is, I wouldn't mind hiring a young coach, like a young offensive-minded or defensive-minded coach. But ideally, I feel like Brian Flores would be the top candidate. It's like we took a gamble with Brian Billick as an offensive-minded coach. He brought home the Super Bowl in his second year. So one's got to wonder how far can we go if we hire a defensive-minded coach. And I feel like that's when Brian Flores comes into the picture. I feel like he can benefit this team a whole lot. He's been around the block in the league, as a, defensive mastermind. So I feel like having a defensive-minded coach, it is the biggest need within this coaching staff. And this is the same organization who pride itself off of having a stout defense. I feel like bringing a guy in like Brian Flores would do a whole lot of wonders.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate the call tonight, man. I think Jimmy Smith would probably agree with you. I encourage you guys to go check out that just dropped, the repurposed short form of my conversation with Jimmy earlier today. It's under the best of section on the Vault. Have a great weekend, man. Appreciate you.
All right, you have a good one.
And being that we just talked about T. Martin as a Commanders candidate for their offensive coordinator job, that's what Jordan Schultz was reporting earlier this evening. Thank you guys for calling it out that just 2 hours ago, not even, the Commanders hired a former NFL quarterback and rising assistant, as Ian puts it here, David Blau, to be their new offensive coordinator. So Detroit was looking at him as well. Young, bright, up and coming. He's going to be Dan Quinn's new offensive coordinator as Cliff Kingsbury was let go earlier this week. Ravens have shown some initial interest in him. I think they're going to have him into the building probably next week or over the weekend. So you can take the Commanders off T. Martin's list, I guess. And maybe another team will be in play. But as far as right now, according to Jordan's reporting, it would just be Detroit, knowing that the Commanders have already found their guy. What the hell is going on in the waiting room right now? I mean, seriously. What the hell is going on in the district? Huh? Why should I bring your ass on right now? Nudity. Super chats first. Joe Jenkins writes, I asked for traps and I got them. Jesus Christ. Joe says Flores could sue us too if we don't pick him. Joe's really drinking tonight, isn't he? Let's see. Where else? KP writes, hire Flores and McDaniels, then beat Miami by 100. Oh, shit. Who put up 70? Did Miami put up 70 a couple years ago? Was that the case? I'm pretty sure that they hung in year one on Sean Payton 70 on the Broncos. Did they not? Am I remembering that correctly? I'm pretty sure they did. That's insane to think. 70 piece. Clinton writes, something was off all season. We really need the front office and staff. I didn't ask you to put on a shirt. You don't have to. Wife beater. Clinton writes, something was off all season. I'm talking to Evan, for those of you that are wondering. Something was off all season. We really need the front office and staff to investigate about the, quote, reports that have come out. We need everyone on the same page. Team needs to leave the drama in 2025. There was plenty of it. That's what happens when you lose. And the Ravens lost a lot this year. 9 games. Anybody have that in their prediction preseason? I got accosted for saying 12-5. Okay? I was off. Some of you guys were yelling at me. 13-4, 14-3. Yeah, we'll see about what we do in August in the prediction game based on how they hire, don't we? Thanks for the super chats. Appreciate you guys for being with me tonight. Let's go to Eminem, DC's Eminem. Great to be with you, partner.
Mom Spaghetti.
How you doing, huh?
Good, man. How are you? I just had to, I saw Mo with no sleeves. I figured no shirt might be appropriate, but
I asked for traps and I got a whole lot more.
You said nudity. I didn't want to get this flagged or demonetized or whatever.
You never know. I appreciate you. For all I know, YouTube.
Speaking of demonetized, go fuck yourself.
Hey, for all I know, YouTube is going to do that and a whole lot more for your wife beater tonight, mid-dinner, mid-food session.
Yeah, no one wants to watch this shit. Anyway, I want to drill into the Brian Flores risk conversation, because I think this is where I kind of want to give you some insight as to where I think you're losing people, and we can just have a healthy discussion about it.
Okay.
I think your coverage sometimes comes across as unbalanced when you hyper focus on the risk associated with Brian Flores, but we ignore the risk associated with, as you already acknowledged, every other candidate has risk associated with them, right? You know, especially one of these candidates that have no head coaching experience, or especially your number one, Saleh, who did not have a successful first go around as a head coach, did not have a good relationship with his quarterback, who, yes, was a diva, but also the guy knows ball. Aaron Rodgers, I'm talking about. The guy knows ball. The guy he's a real recognized, real type of dude. So clearly he saw something in Saleh that he didn't jive with. So those are two risks associated with Saleh. And again, let's remember who we hired in 2008. The guy was literally, his experience was a special teams coordinator.
Sure.
So there's a lot of risk associated there. I just think that when we hyper focus, and again, this lawsuit, it's not like Brian Flores is being sued by players for beating on them or for being an asshole. He is the plaintiff in this situation. Unless I'm mistaken, but I'm pretty sure he's the one suing the Miami Dolphins.
Correct.
Right. So I don't take that as a knock on the guy. I mean, he was clearly mistreated within the organization. Like, why is that? Why do we knock him for that?
Well, from a distraction standpoint, I agree with you.
Yeah. I think
there's an ongoing lawsuit.
I think it's the NFL, baby. Like, every team's got distractions. It's that's where especially in the age of social media. I mean, literally, no matter who we hire, you see how they're covering us right now. No matter who they hire, it's going to be like, if they sneeze and look at Lamar, and Lamar doesn't say bless you, there will be a fucking chaos. So I think we gotta recognize that no matter who we hire, there's risks associated with them, and instead of just focusing on that, which it's all fair, stuff. But when we hyper focus on that, and I really commend Nat, who you already acknowledged did a fantastic job with balancing between those things, but kind of also reminding everyone, like, the dude's had a ton of success in Minnesota, and that's post distraction. That's post the dictator shit. And I also want to talk about this Tua thing, where Tua's calling him the worst man ever. If your fucking owner forced you to tank to draft this guy, and then he ends up sucking, are you gonna like the dude? Or are you gonna lean on him a little bit? Because I think Brian Flores, I can see where he was coming from with that, and I can understand why there probably was a little bit of cloudiness around that relationship.
I can too. I think you make a lot of great points. I appreciate your perspective, and most importantly, the way that you articulated it. Early on this week, the Ryan Fitzpatrick stuff started to circulate. I led with that in a lot of ways, right? In terms of one of the cons, if you will, one of the alleged cons, potential perceived cons when it comes to his candidacy. To your point, what I loved about Matthew and why I wanted him on was I wanted to dig deeper in terms of what's gone really, really well and what hasn't trickled down into his Minnesota experience under Kevin O'Connell. And you see the transcription right here. I won't play it again just because it's like 3 minutes long. But on the Tua front, you refer to him on a podcast, as you alluded to, as a, quote, terrible person. Matthew Collar, Vikings insider, yesterday, quote, I have never heard that from his players here. The best players to ever talk about something are guys with nothing to lose. If you go look at Stephon Gilmore or Anthony Barr, the things that they've posted on social media about Flores' candidacy, they're backing him 100%. They were on their way out the door. They can say whatever they want. All I can tell you is that the players here have backed Brian Flores 100%, really from day one, and connected with him extremely well. Regardless of how dysfunctional it was, He had elite defenses in Miami too, and the guy really knows what he's doing on that side of the football. That's what stood out to me the most in terms of that snippet. And so I think since I led with what I did on the Fitzpatrick side of things, I've tried to also cover, every blade of grass, to use a football term. And then ultimately, probably why I led with the way that I did, look at it from the best of my ability, the Steve Bisciotti lens, risk adverse, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to this massive, significant moment in time in his franchise's history, and he's got to get it right. And so I think I'm totally fine with the way that you view it. And hopefully I did an okay job at developing and starting to, as that conversation and overall evaluations materialized, and it will continue to if he gets a second interview. Hopefully I did an okay job at how that lived.
No, I think you have been balanced. I just think sometimes your framing of it is like, it's like a yeah, but with him, whereas with other coordinators or coaches, we kind of gloss over the risks associated with them, and we don't focus as much on them as we do with Flores. And I understand that his situation is a little bit different, so I understand that as well. But hey man, I really appreciate
continue to reiterate, every candidate obviously comes with its
correct, including the one we had for 18 years. So there's and anytime you hire, especially the quote unquote CEO of your organization, you're going to be taking a risk. But I just want to say, man, I really appreciate the work you've been putting in this week. I know I particularly can be a fucking huge asshole in the chat. I hope people genuinely know that it's coming from a place of fun for me. And if people aren't having fun with it, I try to ease up on them a little bit. But I'm genuinely just kind of like the likable asshole. That's kind of my role in the chat, I feel like, and I embrace it. So
unlimited sleep and this kind of week, there's nobody that I enjoy hating more than you and
I'm proud to be that. I'm proud to be that, man. So have a good weekend.
Appreciate the compliment, and enjoy the rest of this weekend, because there's going to be plenty more coverage coming. Appreciate you.
Of course. Yep.
Later. What's up, EB?
Oh, boy. What's going on, Bobby? What's going on, man?
Guy's got his Amazon drip on. He's chilling. Let me get a super chat in here. Dyad writes, Bountygate got Peyton banned. Still hired. B-Flow for Ravens. Zayad's been on the Brian Flores train, as you can see with his cover photo, for quite some time. Appreciate you, Zayad, and appreciate all of you guys for being with me tonight. Over 1,800 concurrents and counting. And here you go, EB. 10 total candidates. 4 have already had their interviews completed with the Ravens organization. The hell is going on behind you, by the way?
Oh, that's other Amazon associates.
They coming after you? You got the feds on you? What's going on, EB?
No, I'm at the warehouse. Bobby. I'm at the warehouse, Mike.
Talk to me tonight, EB. Welcome in, brother.
I'm not feeling that Kevin Stefanski candidacy. I'm not feeling that shit at all.
How did I know you would say that?
I'm just not feeling it. I mean, I'm not a fan.
Tell me why.
You said tell you why. I'm gonna just be honest, Bobby. I'm just not a fan. I don't have any facts on legitimacy as to why I don't like Kevin Stefanski. I mean, maybe because he's coming from Cleveland, and I can't really blame him for as the debacle that he's been coaching, because I mean he didn't have the personnel, but there has been a stat going on for as he's the only coach.
Yeah, with the sound, I really can't. I mean, they're really after you tonight. Come on, what would you do, EB? You smoking on the job?
No, not yet. Not on that cloud yet, but trust and believe, when I get the hell up out of here, I most definitely will.
This is one of my favorite segments of all time right here.
But he's the only coach who's actually made it to the playoffs and has a playoff win out of how many other coaches was it, Bobby?
Oh, I got the statistic that you're referencing.
Yes.
Yeah, I had this on with Mary Kay. How about this? I mean, again, look, I'm not saying that he's the best fit for Baltimore. Right. I just like to at least hear from you guys nuanced conversations, word of the day, in terms of why you feel that way. Because look at what he's done in what was otherwise pure dysfunction prior to his arrival for years running in Cleveland. And oh, by the way, despite the 4-8 record against John Harbaugh and the Ravens over his tenure, he has won 4 games against the Ravens, and he's played them tough in just about every single one of them, including Lamar's poop game, and we all remember that. Stefanski, 45-56, 2 playoff appearances, 1 playoff win over 6 seasons. 11 other Browns coaches combined, 111 wins, 234 losses, 1 playoff appearance, 0 playoff wins. Look, he weathered the storm this year in what was a total shit show with the quarterback carousel. Andrew Berry did not set him up for success on that front. He had 13 different quarterbacks, Mary Kay said, start for him over 6 seasons, including Joe Flacco in 23 when Deshaun goes down. He did not sign up for the Deshaun total circus that became the has-been decision. The more I think about it, the more I got to give him his flowers. He dealt with a bunch of bullshit in Cleveland, and I'm kind of upset for him.
Now that's the only upside, you feel me, that I can definitely get with far as with Kevin. But outside of that, I mean, he's a Cleveland Brown head coach, so I mean, maybe it's the rival thing, maybe it's the AFC North in me. But I mean, if we end up making him our head coach, I mean, shit. That at the end of the day, that's what Shotty's calling. And to be honest with you, I'm glad he finally pulled the trigger far as getting us a new head coach, because it was time for change. But far as my top candidacies for the Ravens, to be honest, my defensive coordinator pick is for all my combinations. So my defensive coordinator is definitely Jim Schwartz, because what the hell he did with that Cleveland defense, oh my gosh. And there's another coordinator, Bobby, that nobody is talking about. And I'm surprised, but maybe it's because he's still in contract. And that's fucking Matt Burke, Houston Texans defensive coordinator. But I mean, hey, maybe he's still in a contract. But Jim Schwartz is definitely my coordinator. My first combination is definitely
Jim's a dog, man. He's a Mount St. Joe guy. He's a Baltimore guy. Jim's an absolute dog. Championship caliber defenses. All 3 levers are sound. They get pressure. Obviously, anybody does with Myles Garrett on the D line, but like, savage. Just a savage level of defense. Yes, his stint in Detroit as head coach did not go well. I believe he's only got 1 playoff win under his belt. Or 1 playoff appearance. I can't remember what it was. It might have been an appearance. But, yeah, I mean, hell yeah. EB, thanks for the call, brother.
Definitely. No problem, Bobby.
Later. Run fast. I love it. I do. You know that? This guy. Oh, that's one of my favorite calls right there to date. Dark Thunder 35 says, Flores admitted that he was wrong in how he treated his staff and players last year. He credited Tomlin for teaching him how to lead. Yeah, and so there you go, right? Like the tutelage of Mike Tomlin, the tutelage of Kevin O'Connell. They're like similar age, I'm pretty sure, but like culture setters. It's been several years. He's had a tremendous amount of success, turned things around. Sex or success. Had a tremendous amount of success in a short time period in Minnesota. Found household names, developed no names into household names defensively. Van Ginkel certainly comes to mind with the way that Matthew Collar spoke about him and the type of player that he's become. So, yeah. Good stuff, Dark Thunder. Major media channel. This is the type of commentary that I should just, 1, ignore, and 2, ban or put you in timeout at least. Because 1, this is what you're known to do. And 2, 90 minutes in. Should I address this? What do you guys think? I got Richard waiting in the waiting room, but should I address this? What do you think? Should I? Should I give him oxygen or should I bring on Richard? What do you guys think? Evan says, yes, address him. Address him. Yeah, fuck it. I'm not giving him that. What's up, Richard? Good to see you, brother.
Man, I just responded to address him.
Undress him?
Yeah, go no, not undress him. What the fuck?
Dress him down, baby. Dress him down. There we go.
Yes, that.
I'll come
Yeah.
back for his ass in a second. What's up, brother?
I mean, so number one, I appreciate you all the work you've been doing this past week. I think you've been fucking burying your head, getting all the information you can on all the candidates that we have, and discussing all the possibilities that we could go of head coach. I just want to say that your work does not go unnoticed.
Thanks, man.
I'm getting a shitload of information from each of your streams.
I appreciate
Now,
that. It's been I won't say I won't go into my soapbox, but it's been a heck of a week, and everybody that's been showing up consistently has made it really worth it. So thank you.
I mean, it's one hell of a week to not have your partner in crime. I'll tell you that.
I know. I kid you not. I said this earlier on. We have not spoken. Like, she's shown a level of restraint that I got to commend her on. I mean, she was Twitter happy the day of the news, and certainly gave some thoughts. But we have not connected once since she was wheels up on Monday. So hey, good for her for enjoying the tropics, and she'll be back on Monday, and we'll have Todd to speak with that day. So it should be a good return for her.
Yep, no, for sure. Speaking on some of the comments that EB made, I actually kind of agree with them, but I have reasons for it. In regards to Kevin Stefanski, I don't like that pick. And the reason I'm going to say why is because it's handling of the quarterback position. So you're telling me, one thing that I could not forgive Harbaugh for, and this is probably the biggest, like, honestly, the most unforgivable thing that he did this year, was riding with his two left guard and right guard, and not giving Emory Jones a shot. And we saw in the last game, as soon as Falale, was as soon as he was out, he already had given up a pass rush for a sack, and then Emory Jones goes in and he gets 10 yards on the field. Then he subs in on the left side, and we score 14 more points after 2 quarters of doing jack shit. So that's one thing that I have against Harbs. The reason why I'm bringing that up is because Kevin Stefanski and his handling at the quarterback position. You're telling me that Dylan Gabriel was a better quarterback than Shedeur Sanders? He did that because he was afraid of losing his job, because he was thinking that his dad was going to go ahead and come in and replace him as head coach. And at the end, I think Stefanski is fired, right?
He was fired, and I think it was pretty obvious that Shedeur was Andrew Berry's pick, Gabriel was Stefanski's pick, and obviously Flacco won the job as the veteran, as he probably should have. They started losing games. I think we all knew that all 3 quarterbacks were going to play at one point. I think it's also fair to say that right now, Gabriel and Shedeur aren't starting quarterbacks. I think obviously Shedeur proved that he should have been in terms of the depth chart ahead of Gabriel. I think we can agree with that after what we saw. And certainly I don't think he was set up for success when the Ravens played him, and it was his NFL debut. But I can't imagine that there wasn't friction. There wasn't not friction between the front office and the coaching staff in terms of how they handled draft night, because that was an utter disaster.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I guess my point being is that whoever the hell the head coach is going to be, I want them to put the best guys on the field, regardless of their ego and pride. We have a short window, and this year, not even addressing the offensive line, also talking about Keaton Mitchell, talking about Tez Walker, talking about a whole bunch of other people. There's that one guy, I can't think of his name, who's a DL that we got in the draft, who never got a chance to see the field, even when we lost Nambi and everything else. No, not Adisa. He was drafted this year.
Fub, Aeneas.
Thank you, that guy.
Yeah, Aeneas Peebles.
He never got even chance to see the field, and
he early, but he was inactive for weeks down the stretch. Yeah,
like a legitimate chance to see him, and we saw him for a drive or two. But I mean, how much can you glean from a drive? That's very small sample size, and in a time when frankly the team looked like horseshit, and we were losing so badly that it didn't matter who we had on the field. At that point, I'm like, you put in every single horse you got and see who the hell you got.
Yeah,
Harbaugh's didn't do that,
I got
but
you.
That's one thing that I say, that could have really changed the outcome of the season. As far as head coaches go, so going in, I would say I was leaning more defensively with either Brian Flores or Salah. I would say right now, I'm probably leaning towards Brian Flores or Klint Kubiak. I think Klint kind of gives us a. So they compare him with Jason Garrett and Gary Kubiak, which Jason Garrett was going to be the number one pick from Baltimore before they picked John Harbaugh. It's clear that Steve Bisciotti wants, from a personality standpoint, he wants someone who's not going to get too high or too low. I think that's a good trade from him.
Sarah
Kubiak's
has texted me. Sarah just texted me as I completely interrupted your train of thought. In the air, on my way back. What a time to go on vacation. Huh? Partners alive. Everything's good in the world. Sorry. Finish that thought, Richard. Then I'm going to go watch this game.
What was I at?
Sorry, I completely ruined your train of thought.
Yeah, I forgot.
That just popped up.
So I'm gonna leave it at that. Klint Kubiak and Brian Flores put it in ink, and I'm good to go.
Okay, brother. Appreciate you. Enjoy the game tonight. Have a good weekend.
Yep. Have a good weekend.
Appreciate you guys for being with me as well. I do want to say thanks to Preston Automotive Group for the continued support of the program. And if you guys want to just help out as just a thanks, it's free. It'll take a couple seconds, honestly. Sometimes we're judged by page views, right? Like with our sponsors. So like the landing page that I always have up on screen when I tell you about Preston Automotive Group and I tell you, hey, go check it out. If you're in the market for a newer pre-owned vehicle, you can scan the QR code in the upper right-hand corner. You can go to the show notes. If you can just literally copy paste the link that I just dropped in the live chat or scan the QR code or go to the show notes and visit my site for me, it would go a long way just in terms of our partnership and the continued exposure that we're trying to give to Preston Automotive Group, being that they are the longest standing sponsor of mine. And the reason why I have my wheels, the Preston Automotive Group, Bobby Baltimore Bronco. So I'd appreciate that. And as always, when you do go to that site, you'll be reminded of a couple different offers that are out there for Trosseteers, my subscribers, $500 a credit towards a new or pre-owned vehicle. And when you buy 4 tires, you'll receive 50% off your alignment. You can contact them by filling out this link right here. You can follow me across all of my social networks right here. You can search the available inventory section with over 3,920 vehicles to choose from. Search by make, model, keyword. You want to go deeper, price, vehicle condition, year, make, location. Here are all the dealerships all throughout the DMV. The one that I use when I'm in town off of Liberty Road, Preston Ford West. They're a great group to work with. They have a presence within the Ravens community at every single Be More Around Town tailgate. And I very much appreciate their support that they've been giving me for years running, powering this show. It means a lot. Look at Mike trying to get on my good side after the week that it was, huh? Trying to get on my good side, Mike? I love you, Mike. 1 month of membership. Appreciate you for that. Mike says, since we are all glazing Bobby, using one of my favorite words, pause, you really have been putting in overtime. Getting insiders from other teams has been clutch. Look forward to Monk on Monday, as do I. Thanks, Mike. Have a great weekend, brother. Appreciate you. Love getting all over you as well. Hard pause. KP writes, I'll be happy for CJ Stroud, but I'll be frustrated if the Texans win the Super Bowl with our long-established team-building blueprint we got away from. Yeah, they've really capitalized under his rookie window, have they not, KP? And that defense is a bunch of dogs. I can't wait to see how they fare in Pittsburgh. They've won 9 straight games. They're the hottest team league-wide by far, and it's not particularly close. Appreciate you, Kobe, for all the love. And, hey, make sure everybody shows some love to our friend Steve Loop in the live chat tonight. Steve, you are the man. Hope you're doing well, my friend. Appreciate you, and it's great to see you back in here as well. Guys, thanks to Preston Automotive Group. Thank you all for a wonderful evening. Would love for you to follow me on Twitter if you haven't already done so. You can connect with me on all social media platforms this offseason. That includes Instagram at Bobby Baltimore. That also includes the same handle on X or Twitter at Bobby Baltimore. The O in Baltimore is a 0. And those of you that are asking for reasons or ways to donate outside of the Super Chat feature, you can do so through Venmo or Cash App, as you see up on the screen. Nothing is ever expected, but anything and everything is always appreciated. I will catch up with you guys tomorrow. Let's be honest. Why wouldn't I be catching up with you tomorrow? The search continues. I just don't know what time yet. So stand by on that. We'll have Sarah back. She's en route right now in the air on her way back from the tropics. I look forward to bringing her back on Monday, and I don't think she knows yet that Monkin's scheduled for Monday, tentatively scheduled for Monday. Things can change. He has his interview tomorrow with Cleveland, so prayers up for him. I wish him the best. He's the man. It was awesome catching up with him last night for over 20 minutes. He's an exceptional personality and brought this Ravens passing attack to new heights over the last 3 years. I wish him well in his future in the National Football League, and I would not be surprised if head coaching opportunities end up being passed on or they pass on him. Would not be surprised if he ends up being a Harbaugh tandem on the offensive play caller side wherever John lands. Thanks, guys. And yes, Liv, Todd Monkin is scheduled to be on the vault on Monday afternoon. So hopefully that comes to fruition. Last time I teased it back in the AFC Championship year, a couple of years ago, Ravens PR came in and swiped it from me. So hopefully that's not the case this time around. Obviously, they had a job to do. I got it, but that was a mistake of mine. But he's no longer employed with the Ravens. So hopefully I can tease it now. And I look forward to that on Monday. Thanks, guys. I appreciate you. Every one of you.